Yeah, frame rate.
As of late 2008, if you were to open the Xbox Live Marketplace, you might stumble across a unique library of games called Xbox Live Indie Games, or XBLIGs, for Xbox 360. These were created by independent developers using Microsoft's XNA framework tools. All XBLIGs were free to download, but had short trial periods. Once you passed the 4 or later introduced 8-minute mark, you could either close the game or purchase it to keep playing. Unfortunately, all XBLIGs were delisted from the storefront in 2017. Most were preserved by archivists online, but a fair amount of them are considered lost to time. They're not particularly sought after though, as the majority were low-effort projects that most wouldn't care to play. Before we get started, one last thing. Notice this screen here, which shows immediately after launching an XBLIG. It reads, "This game hasn't been reviewed by Microsoft or a ratings board. To report any concerns you have about this game, please visit our website." In other words, these were unmoderated, so not only was XBLIG a home for many low-quality games, some could be downright offensive, though I imagine most of those were reported and eventually removed from the service. Just gonna warn you ahead of time, some of these games have exaggerated cartoon blood and considerably crude humor. The most extreme example that I know of personally is Cuddle Bear. Let the game's intro speak for itself.
I love you so much, Cuddle Bear. Cuddle Bear loves Johnny. Cuddle Bear's gonna be with Johnny forever and ever and ever. Cuddle Bear, what are you doing? Cuddle Bear, come on. Where did you get the marker from? It's not a marker.
I probably can't show the rest of this without getting demonetized. There are walkthrough videos online, but just a heads up, it's pretty disturbing. Shocking user-made content wasn't uncommon to find back then. I guess because the efforts to moderate this stuff have greatly picked up since. Anyways, Cuddle Bear's intro seems to be missing in this archived version I found.
Cuddle Bear!
Maybe the intro was removed to keep it on the platform. Hard to say. The game was reportedly updated a few times. Either way, is Cuddle Bear enjoyable? Not really, no. It's a run-and-gun platformer using dual analog sticks. Your goal is to kill everything that moves while collecting coins, then making it to the exit. Coins are used to buy new guns at a store, which you can then select from. Regarding the game's audio, it's composed of the creator's voice samples or stock sound effects and music. Cuddle Bear's only redeeming factors are the combat mechanics. Throwable grenades and the deployable melee attack were at least mildly enjoyable to use. The enemies and level design are, however, uninteresting. Many of their sprites aren't even cut out properly. I can't recommend Cuddle Bear, but it's a good example of the many strange amateur projects that flooded the platform at the time. While this next game is also quite amateur, it's incredibly creative. Let's continue in the direction of weird and wacky with Really Scary. Really Scary is a first-person horror game. It takes the perspective of your average Joe living in a typical mid-2010s home. It uses photographs instead of graphics, giving the illusion of walking around in real time. Without professional equipment, the perspective is always shifting, and the lighting changes as the camera adjusts to different conditions. Feeling so much like a homemade project, there's an absolute charm to this game. Using stop motion, the creator can do whatever they want between photos, which makes for some effectively creepy scenes. For example, this bloodied bear who was just next to me a moment ago is now sitting in front of this old-school HD TV. Then, for some reason, this weird spider-headed person jump scares me. But I'm still alive. I wake up to find that bloody bear, now without its head. Eventually, the doorbell rings. So, why did I do that? This game doesn't make all that much sense. At a certain point, it turns into what must be one of the earliest Five Nights at Freddy's clones to exist. While I commend the effort of doing all this with photographs, I have no idea what to do from here. Really Scary was re-released on Steam in 2019 as Real Scary. Its sequels are also available, found in the developer's catalog using different names. The rest of today's games aren't as psychologically disturbing, and don't feature bears. But they're still disturbing. This is Baby Maker Extreme. A lot of XBLIGs have very little content to them, kinda like a phone game. Baby Maker Extreme is one example of that. You boot the game, get some fitting loading screens, then it's immediately into the baby making. Alternate LT and RT quickly, then spam the B button, and eventually, out pops a baby. Hitting anything slows the baby's flight, unless it's glowing blue. Then you get launched back into the air. As you probably guessed, the goal is to get the baby as far as possible. You can customize the baby, or replace it with your Xbox avatar. That's pretty much it. Fairly addictive game, at least in short bursts. There exists a sequel which expanded on the concept a little bit, but you get the idea. Mount your friends. Despite the goat, there's an elephant in this room, and I think it's best if I don't talk about it. You'll use the face buttons in conjunction with the thumbsticks to move a bunch of dummies around. One by one, the goal is to collaboratively achieve maximum height within a time period. There are a few variations to this, like the single-man climb. I enjoyed that to an extent. In truth, this game is far more enjoyable in multiplayer, where you and your friend can laugh at the sheer nonsense happening on screen. On my own, I can appreciate the silliness of this concept, but with little content on offer, solo play misses out on half the fun. You can still get this game for $5 on Steam. FortressCraft Chapter 1. Before the official release of Minecraft on Xbox 360, there were a lot of clones in the XBLIG. Castle Miner Z is probably the most recognizable of the bunch, but if I had to check out just one of them today, then I would pick FortressCraft. It's the only Minecraft clone that I ever played and felt like giving it a revisit. What an options screen! It's uncommon to see all this in a 360 game. FortressCraft, at least in this state, is reminiscent of Minecraft's earlier years. Not much of an objective here, but there are plenty of creative ideas to pursue. As far as I can tell, there's no survival element here. The credits imply there would eventually be crafting, mining, and PvP, but there's no mention of monsters. Although in this version of the game, I often found a creepy ghost player with glowing red eyes wandering off in the distance. Whenever I got close, it would vanish into a cloud of black smoke. The hell was that about? FortressCraft is pretty glitchy. At one point, I could see the moon between blocks while the sun was still up. Getting stuck between anything causes this annoying static effect. And I guess the water here is as strong as lava, since everything below my chest is no more. Oh yeah, you can play as your avatar, and that's always neat. While the game is basically objectiveless, you can find relics underground that grant you certain abilities. Figured I'd mention that, though I wasn't able to find any myself. What I did find are numerous gizmos and gadgets that you can use for building. Check out this trampoline block, which takes me to ludicrous heights. Beyond fun personal shenanigans, FortressCraft allowed you to connect with friends to visit each other's worlds. So come check out my giant cement block, this library maze, or this fortress I created to escape from that creepy ghost player. After the 360 release of Minecraft, the community behind these clones started to fade. Though they managed to break free from the Xbox, now available as upgraded experiences on Steam. As per FortressCraft, it evolved into FortressCraft Evolved in Unity. More recently, the original Xbox 360 version was brought over to PC and can be purchased on Steam. Initially, this video was meant to feature more games, but it's been hard finding time for YouTube recently. So I've decided to split it here, with more coming soon in a second part. Thanks for watching! Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the conclusion. See you then!